Hello, everybody. Let me check if all is all right here. Put the chat room in a different place. And here we go. Here we go. Hello, everyone. Hope everybody's all right. We are live. We are live. And this is okay here. Just check if this is all right here. Remove all the stuff that doesn't need to be here. Exit this. Too many things running on this PC. So, hey, everybody, welcome aboard. We are live once again on this Wednesday/Thursday, depending where you live around the world. And we, of course, talk about radio. We, of course, are live twice a week, and we talk about shortwave radio. So we are live on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. That's 0 hours Universal Time, so it's technically UT Thursday, and it is Thursday for a big chunk of the world. We are, of course, live on Wednesday evening in North America. We are live also on Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern. That's 20 hours Universal Time, and we talk about radio, shortwave radio, and all kinds of radio, from the bottom of the very low frequency range of earth sounds and up to the very high and ultra high and very, very, very extremely high frequency ranges, whatever. But we mostly deal with, what is below 30 megahertz here. But, we sometimes go to other frequency ranges and talk about it. So welcome aboard, everybody. My name is Gilles. I'm located in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, northeast part of North America. We are here to have fun with radio. Tonight, part 2 of Let's Have Some QSL Special. And actually, what I will do, I want to do this, is going to use my headphones because we will check for some audio clips of things that will go with the QSLs like we did last time. So I hope that you guys enjoy the show and find that it's entertaining. So that's going to be kind of cool to check out as usual. So let me just go here. And then we'll put that down. So it's always nice to have everybody on board. Hope that you guys enjoyed the show tonight on our live feed. If you like interacting with people, we have a fantastic chat room. All you need is a Gmail account. There, you will interact with our wonderful people that are here to just have some great, cool moments with radio. And of course, we will talk to them a little later. Chat room is nice because people are really, really, great, and very, in general, very nice with each other. And this is a place for the newcomer to the hobby because we're so helpful. And this is the really the kind of nice thing about having this this place here with all the people that are just so cool. As for the Facebook group, once this is over, there's another place where people hang out. And throughout the week and the days when in between the live shows, a lot of people posting and sharing on the official SWL channel Facebook group, where more than 2,000 people are having fun, sharing their hobbies, their passion, radios, what they're listening to, things of interest to all radio listeners. It's really a lot of fun. It's really cool to see everybody interacting, and it's really, really nice. Um, For the rest, well, you know what? We also have email, and we're going to actually check out here email. We have Elizabeth in Regina, Saskatchewan, Canada says, hello, enjoying a little vanilla pudding and listening to the show. We'll be uh, tuning the bands on the Kenwood R5000 while I listen to what you have to say. Always a great moment, and always look forward every week to the two live shows. Thank you, Elizabeth. We have Richard Lemke, that is also from St. Albert, Alberta, saying hello. Listening to Spain on 96.90, here in Greece on 94.20. And so this is going to be interesting to talk about, because we're going to talk about Greece, because something has come up, and maybe we can do something about it. And that's where I'm going to actually be posting information about it, because there's kind of a bad news concerning Voice of Greece coming up. But you know what? They had that moment in time before also, and finally came back on the air. So let me just Voice of Greece, Shortwave. Here we go. So there's an article in Greek where they talk about the possibility of Voice of Greece that might be disappearing. We'll talk about it a little later. I'm trying to find some information. If anybody can dish out an email for me, that would be kind of cool. An email of Voice of Greece where we can send in something and post it in the chat. Possibly, if you guys have a World Radio TV handbook, that would be a great reference to get an email for Voice of Greece. So if anybody can share it, and we're going to talk about it for sure. So what else do we have? We have, of course, a lot of things that we're going to talk about of upcoming events, and do a little promotion here about it, because I think it's a great event coming up and it's worth mentioning. So let's start with Jay Watterson 69. Nice to have you on board, my friend. Charlie McKee, VE2XCC from just west of Quebec City. Nice to have you here. VE2FGJ Radio. Nice to have you on board. Still have not received my infant antenna. It says that it's stuck at the customs. So probably some overzealous guy at the customs decided he wants to check it out. Richard, good evening. Could the tram 1411 be used on the ATS 25? Looking forward to another great show. Yeah, but it would not be of great use, because the ATS 25, apart from the FM band, is shortwave, and below maybe 25 megahertz, you won't have very good performance out of the tram 1411. It's not made for shortwave. It's made for sorry, 25 megahertz and up. You're better off with some other antenna, like an MLA30, for example. Randall, nice to have you here from Northeast Illinois. But what else do we have? So yeah, like he says, I don't know why he's posted it 3 times, but the ATS 25, apart from the FM broadcast band, it is really a shortwave, long wave, medium wave, shortwave only radio. Tram 1411 would not be the best to use. MDK2, Matt, nice to have you on board. And says where the weather has been mild lately. Pretty mild today. We went above 32 Fahrenheit. We went about 34, 35. Tomorrow's going to be even a little higher, and maybe a little bit of rain. So before we get a big freeze again, like by the weekend or something like that. Christian Marcoux, bonjour et bienvenue. Nice to have you on board from North Bay, Ontario. Shelley from Pennsylvania, nice to have you on board. We have Danielle, nice to have you here. KC1MRZ. We have TVDXer, salut, ça va bien? J'espère que tu vas bien toi aussi. Nice to have you on board from very close to Montreal, actually. Bobby Burgess, WA5107SWL in Morgan City, Louisiana, USA. Nice to have you here. Hope your new place is getting you're getting acquainted with your new place. I believe you move. So hope that things are good. Rob. Okay, Rob. Hey, James Farley. Nice to have you here. KD2GUZ in New Jersey. Nice to have you here. Rufus Newt from Laurentian Valley, Ontario. Going on day 8 with no furnace. Youch. That's kind of cold. Ramston, nice to have you on board from Arizona. Andy New, nice to have you here from Bristol in the UK, M7CUN. We have Dwayne, nice to have you here from Bristol, Tennessee. We have David, KJ4CMY from Central Georgia. MDK2, interesting, hearing CNR1 from the transmitter side on the Radio Nacional Amazonas. You know, February and March, when we get close to these equinox, are times when we have a lot of signals coming in from Asia that are actually popping up. So it's one of those transition times when a lot of Asian signals pop up everywhere on the band. DJW883, nice to have you here from East Pennsylvania. Man Max getting 11780 until a little bit ago. Zen Faros, nice to have you here. Got my multi-coupler. It's as good as Jill says. Oh, it's an amazing device. It's just no noise, low noise. With it, you put it in, put it out. There's really the signals have no more noise when you use it. It's great, and it is amazing when you want to share with multiple radios at the same time. I love mine. It is expensive, but definitely it's a great device. The Film 2011, nice to have you here from Denver, Colorado. Nice to have you here, Terry. Joe Rotman, nice to have you here. Joe from Chicago area. VT Radio, nice to have you here. Paul, AA1SU from Essex Junction, Vermont. Going to try to edit and upload a radio video while I watch and listen. Cool. What else do we have? Let me just check it out. James Farley, did you know that in Skywave schedules, that in the menu, if you hold down help, you can get current solar flux KNA index page? I didn't know. I haven't actually, because it's been having a lot of upgrades of all sorts of new features, and I haven't played with it a lot. I need to play with it again and make a video about it because it's such a great app for Android devices. Jason Francis, nice to have you on board from Ottawa. Rob says very nice wall fire. Yeah, it's a firewall. Man Max 9690 booming in tonight. S9 on my Ethon with a U-loop. Paul, nice to have you on board from a Springlight Bay Area. Max D76 from West Michigan. Tech Guy, nice to have you here. Live from Seattle, nice to have you on board with current climate. I figured some might find this useful. Okay, we'll see about what. David McCormick, according to the U.S. News, Canada is on fire with all the protests. Meanwhile, the shortwave hobby is still the best. It's not on fire. The protests are very small compared to what the majority of Canadians, but they get a lot of attention. But oh well, that's life. VA3 JPX, nice to have you on board from Ottawa. But the people that are stuck in those protests are the ones that are really, really getting crazy about it at some point, and it's understandable. Cheers, by the way, screwdriver, because I didn't have any cranberry juice, so it's orange juice and vodka. V3JPX, been looking forward to the show all day. Cool. Keegan, XN80Xer, nice to have you here from Northwest Arkansas. 60 Fahrenheit, wow. Rufus, nice to see. The firewall up again. So, what else do we have? Here? Okay, let's go down. Zanfaros following along with the Streetsburg multicoupler MLE 30 Plus connected to your 4G7, HF Plus Discovery, RSP Duo, and Sony. We'll get some refreshments in a minute. Everybody saying hello to Elizabeth. Nice to have you here, all of you. Great people. RJDA Dakota. Nice to have you on board, my friend. Chaz Tank. Nice to have you here. Tuning in from Louisville, Kentucky. Pretty cool. Toast and Loaf, ahoy. Nice to have you here. From Alabama, we have Kevin. Nice to have you on board, Kevin, from New Jersey. Says enjoying the Texan S2000. I know it has quirks, but I really enjoy the analog signal meter and fine tuning. But the BFO, I wish big radios would come back. Yeah, there's something about big radios that is definitely a cool thing. And you know, there are these radios from time to time we get, and we kind of get hooked on them. And you know, they're not necessarily the best radio in the world. They might have some little quirks or some little problems that kind of annoy us a little bit, but we still kind of just look at them and use them. And you're like, well, you know what? It's cool. I'm happy. I like this radio, you know? And so I totally understand what you mean there with the S2000. David McCormick, 3 a.m. Eastern Time this morning, 10:345 was hot. Remainder of the night for Spanish number station with data and groups of numbers. Yep, I have that 24-hour schedule for them that they're on quite a lot. So Matt, thanks for sharing that. I will actually make a copy paste here because we will need to, and I will ask you guys to do something that is and can change things in the world. Killing 110, nice to have you here. Mixed Radio International, nice to have you on board. Always nice to listen to Mixed Radio International on shortwave bands. I haven't heard Mixed Radio International for a while now. Darren Rogers, nice to have you here. Brad, nice to have you on board. Two Brook Tim, yo, nice to have you here. Chaz Tank, weather's crazy here in Ohio Valley. One day it's below freezing, and a few hours later it's 60 Fahrenheit. Yeah. Brad, nice to have you here. And 5LUL, WA5192SWL. V2FGJ, 6925, Pirate Radio, week. It's possible. It's totally possible. Let's check the HF Underground here for any info about it. HF Underground on the tablet. Here we go. HF Underground. And we have at this time. So there apparently is one on. So there's one. I don't know if it maybe moved UTC from one frequency to the other. So WIRI Radio International was noted at 9945 kilohertz upper sideband at 015 UT and 6925 upper sideband at 2350 UT. So this is kind of interesting. Let me check that out for a second here. So 6925 upper sideband. Do I have something here? Don't seem to have anything here. And 9945. Can't say I hear anything, but 9945, that is definitely one of the weird frequencies to use for a pirate station. So kind of interesting here. So if you guys want to check it out, 9945 6925 WIRI Radio International, apparently. Doug Smith, nice to have you on board. And yeah, we've heard about the new Ethon radio. But I'll tell you, um, if it, as long as it's not out, I am not crossing my finger. I'm not convinced it's going to come out. But if it does, let's hope so. But at the price point where it is, it's not, and that's my personal opinion, not worth a radio. But we'll see. We'll see what comes up and how what all the features are and everything, because it's going to be kind of a very expensive radio. And we're not in the expensive radio world anymore. So many good choices that are much, much less expensive. What else? Keegan has WWV on 5 and 10 megahertz on the field BT radio. Blind Picker, nice to have you here, Rob. W0RAB in Connecticut. Tom DXer, WPE2QED, nice to have you here from the Hudson Valley, New York. We have David Conte from New York City checking in. Zenfaros, speaking of Asian signals popping up, China Radio 9470 from the Xinjiang transmitter site. So we have one of our Radio Canada announcers, sports guys, that is kind of in trouble here in Canada because when there was the surfboard events, the Japanese, that didn't go very well, and he actually commented, I guess he ate too many dumplings, and so it seems that a lot of people didn't like that comment. So he's out, and they replaced him with somebody else for the sports commentary. I don't know. I kind of think sometimes that maybe we're getting a little too sensitive, but hey, that's life. Crittenden Tuttle 4, nice to have you on board. Been a long time. From Oregon, nice to have you here. What else do we have? We have bots. Soviet screwdriver, Soviet vodka. Mine is a Swedish screwdriver because it's made with absolute vodka tonight. So it's a Swedish screwdriver. Mad Radio DXer, nice to have you here from the UK. Kind of a little late there in early Thursday morning. Dutchman 996, nice to have you here. Once again, a lot of people saying hello to Elizabeth. What else do we have? David McCormick, anyone get their SWARL certificate? Yeah, I've got mine. I printed actually mine, but I don't know where I put it. But I got mine a couple of years ago. Usually takes a few weeks to get. So maybe they're a little backed off, according to Matt. There has been a couple new ones issued in January, but the last big batch is December. Chastang, my one complaint about the small portables is my fingers have problems with the small buttons. Yeah, on radios like the Texan PL368 or the Conicom GP7 SSB, I gotta say those buttons are kind of small, and I don't have the biggest hands in the world, but I don't have the smallest either. So with my fingers, you got to be careful. And even the Texan PL330. The Texan PL330 has also the fact that some buttons are kind of almost recessed. So it's like it makes it kind of a little difficult at times to kind of, use it. It's one of the complaints I hear a lot about the Texan PL330. They are very small, so of course there's not a lot of space for the buttons. What else do we have? Dave Conte says, when I plug headphones into my R108. The static level goes up so far that weak signals become unintelligible. Is this common? That's because your headphones are acting as an antenna and you're getting the noise from inside your home. It could be a problem with the headphones, but I've never tried headphones on the R108, so I would have to try them here with maybe this one. But if the audio cable isn't very well shielded, it's just like this, a pair of two wires. It might be bringing in some noise from inside your home. Try to keep the headphone wire as short as possible. Maybe some kind of toroid cores or ferrites on the on the cable for the headphones could help also. David McCormick, any 25 megahertz WWV? Well, it's kind of too late now for me. I'll try it anyways, but 25 megahertz right now. Nope, very quiet. It's the afternoons mostly here that I hear it. I've heard it pretty much every day that I try around 18, 19 UTC. So Dwayne copies 9945 kilohertz. Matt's got 9945 also upper sideband pretty well. So kind of interesting. It's not one of those frequencies that's used often for pirates. Roger Gibbs, nice to have you here from the UK. RDB, thanks for the reviews on the MLE 30 Plus. Just installed my new ones today. Great shortwave and medium wave DX. Thank you for Northern IOs. So nice to have you on board, and it's cool to see that it works. Zen Pharaoh says, Mars Communications 3242. Let's see if I can hear him here. 3242. Oh, yeah. Look at that. 3242 upper sideband. Very strong stations, too. So for those that wonder what that is, 3242, if you hear it, it's very strong here. The stations are very strong. Mars is the Military Auxiliary Radio System. It's a U.S. Air Force military system, which is kind of the military side that resembles amateur radio. And there's a lot of nets going on, actually. I hear a lot of those over time. So 3242 upper sidebands. And when you hear their call signs, note them down and Google them. And often you'll get to some of the U.S. Air Force or military websites where that call sign comes from. And you'll have more information about where it is and so on. It's a lot of fun. What else? Daniel, then again, how is it not to be racist? Yeah, I don't know. It's like, it's like if somebody would go to someone from Montreal would be at the Olympics and some other guy in some network would say, "Oh, he ate too much poutine or something." Yeah, I don't know. He does need to be pretty straight line, of course, being especially a public broadcaster. But it's been that's been the talk of the week here. Charlie McKee, WWV 25,000 was coming in out all afternoon near Quebec. Cool. Yeah, I think I saw your post about it too. David McCormick, sports DJ will work for donuts. Brad, WWV S6, WWVH. So pretty good on 15 megahertz. Yeah, Absolute is very good. It's one of the top brands. If I in vodka in general, if I want really just like will be drinking pure vodka, I'll have Grey Goose. But Absolute is surprising. But Grey Goose would be my first choice. But mixing with like doing a screwdriver, you don't need to buy very expensive vodka. It doesn't matter. Keegan heard 800 CKLW in Windsor, Ontario, with CTV News on his dad's W9JEF's 2017 Chevrolet Volt car radio in Northwest Arkansas. Cool. Just before the show started. That's a good catch. Darren Rogers, speaking of big radios, I had a cousin that owned a Yaesu FRG 7000 and JRC 9545. His antenna was Mickey Damon DA 100D vertical antenna. He had great reception with that antenna. Cool. Dustin Loaf, yeah, a 0.01 capacitor to ground, yeah, because technically his headphones are acting as an antenna. John Beckham, nice to have you on board from Northeast Florida. Ryan Mack just got a new PL330. Thank you for your videos. Thank you. Happy. James Farley is hearing 6754 upper sideband S9, which is the Canadian Valmet station in Ontario, Canada, Trenton, Ontario. Greg, I have two old shortwave receivers. One is batteries. Cool. David McCormick, what is your initial impression on the U-Loop? The U-Loop does well for what it is. I need to make more videos and show it and install that. I will try to install it outdoors eventually. It's a decent antenna. The U-Loop is not made to be outdoors and be a permanent antenna outdoors. It's clearly meant to be a portable setup that you can easily put somewhere. And so that's the antenna itself. So you can't really, the MLA30 is a different beast because the MLA30 is meant to be out. It's meant to stay outside. It can take the bad weather, the cold, and whatever. Where the U-Loop is really just, temporary setup anywhere you go. It's definitely designed for portable operations. It does well what it does. It's a loop. It's just this passive loop. But it does well what it does in general. I find it interesting. What I find even more interesting, it's the capability of using it on the VHF range, where it actually performs decently. So I'm gonna, of course, make more videos of that, and that in that noise phase device that I haven't played a lot with because of the way that I'm set up. Then I need to really, really make things a little better, and also setting up a decent little piece of wire that catches the noise to really play with it a little more. Chuck Davis, nice to have you here from the Twin Cities. RJ Dakota, Howard Casal of ABC Sports fame, got canned for saying something stupid like that. Yeah, it's like even if you think it, just shut up. But and I guess what didn't help also, he tried to imitate Japanese for his name. I was like, yeah, okay. I don't know why you said that or did that. René Charbonnier from Radio Classic Sunday. Nice to have you here from the Netherlands. RJ Dakota, speaking of Greece, I just got in from listening to radio and had Greece as well as Radio Nacional de Amazona. V3JPX, out of all the receivers, including the ICOM and Yaesu, what is your best HF receiver? I have a hard time saying that there's a best. I have several good ones that are really good, that all have their own reason that I like them for listening. But I have a hard time choosing one, honestly. And for me, the RSPDX is what I use the most. So it's great, and I like the waterfall. So it's I think it more comes down to the functionalities that I'm looking for, because the good portables are today really amazing, and I can't necessarily say that there's one that I would pick out and say this is the best radio. I think it's not something we can really do much anymore, because it becomes to a point where this is my best radio because I like that feature that the other one doesn't have, and stuff like that. Hard to, I've got an ICOM, my CRD 500, and all of that, and um, I don't use them. My ICOM is there on the desk, not being used right now, and I mean, it's not that it's a bad radio. It's a good radio. It's a desktop. It's an expensive radio. But you know what I see is that there's it's today, even the good portables, even though they're really really cheap in price compared to the past, are so amazing. It's tough to really pick one. Nathan Philip Connors, nice to have you on board. Brand new to the world of shortwave radio. Well, welcome aboard, and you're at the right place. John Beckham, 5990, coming in loud and clear in Northeast Florida on the Suidon R108. Brian Vettenheimer, nice to have you here. Brian from British Columbia, VA7 VEB. 45 unit, nice to have you here. Just another cool day in Florida, but it will be warming up. Chuck Davis, any good frequencies to listen to Ukraine? Ukraine left. Actually, you don't have the relay anymore. So the only thing that you can do on shortwave is to listen to, other stations talk about the news. I'm sure that in Europe, there are probably a lot of very interesting, because Ukraine and Russia has quite an extensive HF military use. So there must be a lot of stuff, of course, in either Russian or Ukrainian, but there must be a lot of activity going on for their transmissions there. Unfortunately, Radio Ukraine has stopped its relays on WRMI, and I think now would have been a great time to have those relays to listen to. Jeff King, nice to have you here from Jacksonville, Florida. Preston says, I'm getting decent stations tonight, but I'm going to take the radio outside on Saturday to see what else I can grab. You'll see it's a very, very different world. When you go outside where the noise is lower, pretty crazy. Matt, yeah, there used to be Radio Ukraine International on WRMI, but they haven't been on. It's not been years. They haven't been on since, I'd say, about 1 year, roughly. Dimitri, nice to have you on board. Simon, what do we have here? Did I see something here? Okay. Simon Rexon, nice to have you on board. And nice to have you loving it. What else do we have? RDB, nice to have you on board. Says, hey, let's hit that thumbs up button. What else do we have? I think the best radio, if I would sum it up, the best radio is the one you use the most. And for me, that would mean that the RSPDX would be my best radio, technically. Sunwave, nice to have you on board. Frank Ireland, nice to have you on board from Venice, Florida. Jason V9JMC, the best radio is the one that you can afford and works. And so that's pretty much it, basically. That's pretty much it. Pretty much it. Daniel, my favorite receive only radios are my Texan PL 880 and the RTL SDR. Marvin Motz, nice to have you here from China. We have Mickey Dalmage. Nice to have you here from Sherwood Park, Alberta, Canada. Um, hmm, Anything else here? Sunwave was listening to 3903 lower sideband and heard some HFDL. I was like, what? No way, couldn't find a listing for that frequency unless it's totally new. There shouldn't be there because 3903 is amateur band. What radio were we using when you were hearing that? Because that's there's no air aeronautical stuff in that range. There is below some aeronautical stuff and higher in frequency. So, what receiver were you using when you heard that? Out of curiosity, Sunwave. It could have been an image from lower in the frequency range. George, nice to have you on board, and glad to have you here for the first time. Welcome aboard. Matt says Radio Ukraine wasn't really on one of the most favorable frequencies here in Denver. Yeah, here on the East Coast, it was coming in well. But I think they were using mostly frequencies that were East Coast frequencies. So, Mad Radio DXer says Radio Ukraine still has one relay from 6,005 kilohertz. That's the shortwave service in Germany. So that is mostly for Europe. John Beckham, I am inclined to agree with you that there would probably be more shortwave stations out there if relays were utilized more frequencies. Yeah. Yeah. What else do we have? Sunwave says for me the best radio is actually two radios that I have owned. CC Skywave, it says be Ethon Elite Executive because both have the same Silicon Labs chip. Dan, nice to have you on board from Ohio and AWJZ. And Killing 110, I've heard more military stuff on the radio and seen more military aircraft doing training lately. Things are definitely getting tense. And yep. Yeah, it isn't an amateur band, but it's not an aeronautical band. So 3903 should not have HFDL on it, as it is not an aeronautical band. 3903 is a international broadcast band on that range for broadcasts. HFDL shouldn't be there. So I'm guessing you might have had some either some rebroadcasting at the. But what radio were you using, Sunwave, when you were listening? Out of curiosity. But it could be a ham or somebody was doing something. Yeah. Chris, G7VEO, nice to have you on board. And yeah, well, I'm still waiting for my NFED. Still not arrived. According to the tracking, it's stuck at customs. Patrick Fitzpatrick, nice to have you here. Radio Kiev used to broadcast in English in Soviet times. Under QSL, Radio Vilnius, Lithuania was also English in Soviet times. Yeah. Radio Kiev became Radio Ukraine International, and they were, until about a year ago, relayed over WRMI here in North America. Sad that they are not there. So, Greg's got two shortwave radio, and one is a Zenith Transoceanic. Cool. Paul Steckler, remember when Radio Kiev was on a 300 kilowatt transmitter? Keep the Russians away. Sunwave, I haven't heard any interim out on the SCC Skywave CSSB. Tried to get it to overload, just can't. Yeah, it does overload quite easily too. I've overloaded mine quite easily with strong signals. So it's not impossible that you had some kind of but like you said, it's not impossible. There could be somebody that rebroadcasts. HFDL is not usually on that. Well, it's not supposed to be on that frequency range. VA3JPX, that was the cats, Gel. I've been seeing them lately. Oh, they're pretty well, pretty well. They're this is a I'm going to show you a picture of that popped up today that I posted actually. Um, so lots of activity on the Mars net here on the 3242 upper side main frequency. So let me just check it out here. Facebook. Just going to show you a picture of Paul the cat, and even so here's some of the pictures of today. So this is from some digital transmission. So this is Paul the cat from this afternoon while he was sitting right here on my chair. And this is also a picture of Paul the cat looking at me. We're in love. So that's pretty much. And one more was him and Mignon. Both were outside looking at the snow, probably thinking, when will this white stuff melt so we can go around the different areas? So this is today, actually, pictures from today, pretty much. So there's Paul. But this picture is nice. Paul the cat is definitely a very, very beautiful cat. I can tell you that. Love the guy. So they're both sleeping in the bedroom right now, actually. So nice. It's nice to have them. At some point, they will show up. Yeah, Radio Tashkent. I remember Radio Tashkent. What else do we have? Yeah, but there's some HFDL that is in the bottom part of 3 megahertz. So that's why I was asking, because you heard 3903. There's some around 3,000 to 3,200. There's some HFDL there. Yeah, transoceanics. Most radios of the days are very beautiful and 60 radios. I mean, remember that for a long time, radio was part of your living room. So they were not just there to have you listen to radio. They had to be beautiful to match with your living room decor. Yeah, they were part of the furniture. So that's why a lot of them are very, very nice. It was more than just having a radio to listen to. So, yeah, he's, Paul DX, the cat, is sleeping in the bedroom right now with, of course, Mignon. Smoke and Steam. Been a shortwave radio addict. A radio nest since I first heard all the static squeals of faraway places when I was a little kid. And a lot of us are pretty much from that area, too, of getting them from a long time. RJ Dakota got radio in Vilnius, Lithuania. Yep. So, what else do we have? So anyway, Reykjavik, Iceland, HFDL, frequency 3900. I'm gonna check that out, but it's not part of a aeronautical band. And HFDL usually is an aeronautical band. We should check something here. So that's interesting. 3900. Okay. Interesting. But what isn't interesting about it is that it's totally out of anything else that is for that. So weird. So maybe you heard Reykjavik, a little off frequency. Um, John McClure, nice to have you here. Keegan, have a Zenith R7002 transoceanic from 1981 since November 2011. Annie Coley, nice to have you here. Carl Icon is hearing Radio Nacional de Amazona, making it to New York, but echoey. Yep. Huge radios with wooden cabinets, absolutely. RJ Dakota, when I was real little, the radio was a console and that sat on the floor. That Magnavox was huge and got lots of things besides medium wave. Yep. Steve found this 3903 arrow off route region 1. Interesting, Steve. Nice to have you here from Australia. That's interesting. I didn't know there was a little bit of aeronautical stuff there. Huh. Kind of cool. We learn all the time, as we say. So, hey guys, I'm going to pause here and we're going to have our little moment of QSLs, then alternate with the chat. I thought that this would be a little fun to continue with some QSLs. A lot of you have been really, really having fun with me going through the QSL collection and listening into some of the broadcast stuff. I'm just going to prepare one little thing here so that we can actually go through and make sure that instead of signal.net, go. There we go. And I haven't done anything with this one, so I'm just going to do a little something, guys, because I want to make sure it works. I just want to make sure everything works perfectly. Speakers are there, so we'll see if it works. Just going to check out if it works with my... So, okay, I'm just going to change something, a default. I'm going to change one little default, downloads. And we're going to change one default here. This, open with Windows Media Player. And we're just going to customize this to work. Recommended settings, finish. Just going to see if it works. Yes, it does. So I'm just going to change the default here. How do you change this here? Okay, change the default. So change default app will be Windows Media Player. Click OK. And there we go. So we'll be able to play those audio clips easily. So hope you guys will enjoy today's show for that. Okay, so let's look at a little bit of QSLs. RGA Dakota, he's hearing Radio Nacional Amazona even in the basement. So it means it's pretty strong tonight, actually. So 11780 is Radio Nacional Amazonas. But there could be something else. James Farley says the green eye scared him when he was a kid. Yeah, it has that very, very. Oh, I'm gonna check that out. Our Mickey, I saw it go. I saw your post go through the World of Radio website today. IO group, that is. So Mickey as is Cambodia. QSL. Look at that. Look at that, guys. So this is the Cambodia QSL. here. Look at that. From 1999. Dear Mr. Delmage, I have just received your kind letter concerning your reception report on our station and a recorded cassette on our broadcasting program that you have heard on August 12th, 1998 and August 18th, 1998. I would like to confirm that this is really our station broadcasting in Lao language. It contains news in Lao accompanied by Cambodia music and song. So it's pretty cool. These are some of those QSL cards that you cherish all the time. It's just amazing. So, yeah, two things for John Beckham for propagation. There's one is, especially in the Northern Hemisphere, one is the fact that we are getting days that are slowly getting longer. So that's helping. And also the fact that solar activity has been much higher. So the higher frequencies propagate a lot better. Um, Charlie McKee, speaking of out of frequency, I posted a couple of short clips on the hams running over RCI, the China radio on 7260. Yeah, I saw that post. A lot of hams. You know what? This is one thing that I find kind of a little irrespectful, I would say. Now, it's understandable that some hams might not be hearing a station that's there that you're hearing, but a lot of hams are stubborn idiots that think that, oh, with a 40-meter band, 7260 is a ham band and there should not be. I remember listening to Voice of the Islamic Republic of Iran on 7235 or something, and having a ham screaming on the band saying, shut that music off. This is a ham band and so on. And I find two things with that. It's first of all, ham operators should know that 40-meter band above 7200 is shared with an international broadcast band. And seeing that type of ham, you know, the way that they react and all, it's like, yeah, this is not cool, honestly. Fastload got the RSPDX. Did you install it? Is it working right now? Have fun. John Beckham, propagation is improving overall. It seems out of late. Sunwave been hearing a little activity on 12-meter SSB. 10 meters is open almost every day in the last week. Chris, G7VEO, is it true the Russian woodpecker would make you go mad if you listen too long, or just someone's myth? One of those myths, probably. There's a lot of things to, that was said about all sorts of things. I would say that, if they put you, Chris, they put you in a room, deprive you of sleep with the woodpecker real loud, you're probably going to go mad. Anyways. It's like that Chinese water torture thing, but with the woodpecker. Smoke and steam. Which SDR receiver is worth trying for the first timer, or should I just go away? Well, if you are looking for an SDR to play with, I think the best bang for the buck for easy, and when I mean easy, is you will have to learn the software, and there's a learning curve, but the RSP1A is the best with the RSP1A is the best for price versus performance and ease of use and install. It's just plug and play and it works. Fast load, yeah, install working well. Like the antenna select feature. I like that too a lot too. When I had several antennas on it, you just click, I switch between antennas, and that's cool. That's very cool, actually. Just that is really nice already, and it works great. Works great. Keep in mind, Fastload, that on the lower bands around 2,000, 3,000 kilohertz. You might sometimes have spurious signals. On the main panel, change between ZIF and low IF, zero IF or low IF, ZIF, LIF. If you see the signal disappear, it's because it was an image. And it happens only on the bottom part. Higher than, if you're above 4 megahertz, I don't think I've ever seen an image or anything above 4 megahertz. Just in case, not to be fooled that you're hearing some broadcast on like 2850 with music and stuff. It's like, no, you're probably hearing an image. I'm getting used to that now over time. RJDA Dakota, 75 meters. Yep, same thing for the 80 meter band, 75 meters. There's some broadcasts there. 41 meters is not 71 to 74 anymore, RJDA Dakota. That's old info. There was a change of the frequency ranges for international broadcasts. International broadcasts are now technically allowed only from 7,200 kilohertz and above. But there are clandestines and there are some stations below. But back in the 80s, that was like you would hear stuff up down radio. I remember Radio Moscow using 7110 and hearing it really well. San Farrell's Radio Nacional Amazonas is extremely huge at the moment, but it's not the healthiest sounding audio. Got a ton of effects going on, but some sort of weird fading as well. Yeah, the other night I was listening and the fading was really fast. There could be some geomagnetic activity happening also that's making it flutter more. What else do we have? Yeah, and they do have some kind of programs that has these kind of effects on them. Absolutely, also. So Klaus, absolutely. Communicating with the world is the way to go. Smoking Steam was listening to WWVA, Wheeling, West Virginia, Jamboree on Saturdays with my grandma, and Rex Humbert from Radio Church on Sunday on a Philco radio. Wow. Okay. Let's start with the QSL stuff. So a station that you guys will remember, and a lot of guys have probably fond memories of, and we do miss, is Radio Canada International. You guys remember? So here are some QSLs from Radio Canada International. Radio Canada International. And fast load, yes, my wall's on fire. That's my firewall. That's what's protecting me from the outside attacks on the internet. Once again, more QSLs from Radio Canada International. The Radio Canada was interesting because their QSLs were made for you to send back with a reception, and they would actually stamp that QSL, and I actually have one here. So Radio Canada International, the Winter Olympic Games, which I would guess would be the Calgary ones, maybe in 1988, something like that. So Radio Canada International, of course, I think for a lot of us is we have a lot of fond memories of Canadian broadcasting of Radio Canada. I know it's one of those stations that was one of the favorites, out there. And let me see here. I got more of those Radio Canada somewhere. Just looking if I can get some real quick. Nothing here. I don't have the other ones close, but One of those stations that I think a lot of us, it's for a lot of people, it's it's um, it's the equivalent of Radio Australia. So that a lot of people um, are missing at the time. So Radio Canada. Let's see here. A little bit of audio from a station from the past. Radio Canada. So what's that weird country of Canada right here? There we go. So here's a interval signal of Radio Canada that dates to 2007 here. That will bring back a lot of memories for a lot of you.
Radio Canada International.
Radio-Canada International.
This is The Link, connecting new immigrants to Canada and Canada to the world.
So this is a very recent Radio Canada, but
it is Thursday, the 20th of September. Hello, I'm Mark Montgomery. Welcome to the show, and to our new listeners on CFUV in British Columbia. Thanks for joining us today. We're happy to have you share some of your time with us.
Radio Canada International.
Radio-Canada International.
Here is a broadcast from Radio Canada International from January 9th, 1982, that we're going to start off with here.
In English on Radio Canada International's African service. We're now broadcasting on the following frequencies. In the 16-meter band on 17,875 and 17,820 kilohertz. In the 19-meter band on 15,325 and 15,150 kilohertz. And on the 25-meter band on 11,945 kilohertz. In about 5 minutes from now, you can hear the Shortwave Listener's Digest. But to begin with, it's the news.
Good evening. Poland's military rulers warned the West today that economic sanctions against the Warsaw government will only prolong martial law and bring more
Cold War
to the
era.
Polish people.
Let's see here. So, whoops. Let me just go back. I just did something. There we go.
Announced that telephone links throughout the country will be restored on calls involving rival Lebanese military.
Stations to shortwave, Radio Kiribati.
Oh, look at that.
10 years out in the maritime provinces in eastern Canada, a storm which dumped some 60 centimeters of snow and freezing rain.
And old Glenn Hauser, when he was participating
in the maritime provinces last weekend. And review of the shortwave world, and Larry Magny's test report on the Panasonic RF 9000 receiver. Part of the program this week and next week will be including a repeat airing of those two items. Glenn Hauser will be getting the repeat treatment tonight, and Larry
Glenn
Magny
Hauser
will be
from
with us in the program
1982
next week. So, Glenn, the podium is all yours for the first part of your look back at 1981.
In 1981, we welcomed some new stations to shortwave. Radio Kiribati in the Pacific, The Voice of Hope, Lebanon, Radio Antena Libre, Ecuador, La Voz de la Mosquitia, Honduras, Radio Transamazónica, Colombia, XEUJ, Mexico. And Adrian Peterson solved the Burmese mystery on 5060. It's coming from Tongyi. Our breath was baited for the promised appearance from New Orleans of WRNO. Returning to shortwave activity were Africa number 1, Gabon, XEXQ, Mexico, Radio Uganda, Radio Yemeni, Bolivia, Galet Sahel, Israel, Radio Clarin, Dominican Republic, to the displeasure of the Cubans who jam it. And I wish I could add Radio Caroline. Costa Rica finally disposed of Radio Noticias del Continente, which claimed to have solidarity from Sweden, Canada.
Well, that brings us back in time of the good old days of Radio Canada International. So I probably have, I don't know, a dozen QSL cards from Radio Canada. One thing that I want to show you guys, there was a contest at Radio Canada. Okay, that was tough to get out. So there was a contest on Radio Canada International French service. I guess about 1984, 3, 4, somewhere there. On their mailbag show, they were asking people to write in with the answer to a question. It was like a mystery artist, and they gave 3 song titles, and they asked any listeners that would answer all 3 song titles correctly were going to receive a gift from Radio Canada International. So I sent in my answer, and I was a winner. And one day, a car, because I live in Montreal, and the head office of Radio Canada International is here in Montreal, there was a Radio Canada car that stopped in front of where I lived back then, and I had one, a Canadian artist, Angèle Arsenault. This is the album that I won from Radio Canada International back in 1983. So it's still in its cover and everything. So she was a popular artist, a French francophone artist. She comes from, I think she comes from New Brunswick. So this is the it's a little broken, but this is the album, and here's the record is here. Look at that record is here. So I thought I would get this by mail, and my souvenir is so cool because I was sitting outside. It was a summer day. I was sitting outside with one of my friends on the balcony. We were just talking, listening to music. This little car parks in front, has the colors of Radio Canada International, of just the CBC, Radio Canada. And a guy comes out, rings the doorbell. He's got this album in his hand. This is my gift for the correct answer to the Canadian artist quiz that he asked. And I was extremely happy to get this. So a little bit of story of shortwave tonight. So this is kind of cool, one of those little things that you're a teenage guy and you're like, oh, this is so cool. I just want something from Radio Canada International. Ah, man. John Beckham. In my early days of shortwave, I used to listen to them all the time. Yes, it was one of my favorites out there. Radio Canada International. Patrick Fitzpatrick, RCI was in Montreal, so they had to put French and English on their QSLs. I guess they had to have bilingual cards, absolutely. It's a requirement by law here. So, and it's not because it was in Montreal. It's, I think, a requirement at the federal level that any federal funded agency of some sort needs to have both French and English. It's the way it is here. So yep, RCI brings back a lot of memories for a lot of people, for sure. E3 JPX, I thought RCI was a French side of CBC. Nope, RCI was Radio Canada International. It was the international side of the CBC. Actually, they were 2 separate entities. The CBC was the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation for here in Canada, but Radio Canada International was maintained by a different agency. At one point, it became the International Affairs Agency, and it was when it actually really joined the CBC itself that it got killed. The CBC just didn't want that. Chris Powell. Of course, better late than never. AE0IY, nice to have you here. David, KJ4CMY, used to listen to RCI every day for several years during the 70s, both from Arizona and from England. Icon, is there anything left on the RCI station in towers? Well, so Radio Canada was broadcasting out of, there were some relays exchanged, but most of the broadcast came from the Sackville, New Brunswick transmitter site. So they were in the transmitter side was in a different province, was New Brunswick, Canada. All of that is destroyed today. Actually, when they left, the destruction came real fast. Some people wanted to make sure that that does not come back on the air. There were some really bad vibes at the CBC with Radio Canada International, and there were some really negative things happening with that, and the ending is bad, actually. Amanda Don Christie has a. I wish it would be available in an easy way somehow. Spectres of Shortwave is a great documentary that some of you have seen about the CBC, the demise of the Sackville transmitter site, and all of that. But all the programs were made here in Montreal with the CBC downtown on René Lévesque Street, or what was called Dorchester back in the 80s. Way before in the 80s was Dorchester Street. It became René Lévesque Street now. And programs were made here in Montreal. John Beckham, it seems like shortwave stations just came in louder and clearer years ago. The reason for that, because you're not crazy when you think that, because the reason for that is that they were actually, us in North America, we are really, really the one of the regions that are totally left behind by shortwave broadcasts. Because back then, broadcasters were sending their signal towards North America. So any station that was broadcasting, say, the BBC, they had a service for North America. Now the BBC is still on shortwave, but it's for Africa, for Middle East, for Asia. We got to DX those signals that are broadcast for other regions. So we're getting only the weak signals from them. When back then, all the broadcasters were sending their signal towards us. So we were in the area of the signal. We were really getting stronger signals. Absolutely. Yeah, Chastang, Cold War was scary and was not necessarily a fun time for a lot of people, but definitely we had a lot of stuff to listen to for sure. Gabrielle remembers Radio Sweden also sent those QSL. You have to complete and return for a stamp. John Beckham who was receiving Radio Spain currently on 96.90. So usually it has a good signal. All right, JDA Dakota, there was always something to listen to on our fine on shortwave. Yeah, there's still today. It's just that, what is hurting us the most, apart from the fact that many stations aren't broadcasting towards us, what hurts us the most today is the noise level. So, today what happens is the bands seem dead because you have weaker signals, higher noise. It doesn't go well together. So the BBC, if the noise floor that we have today was like the one in 1980, we would not complain that much because we would hear the BBC to Africa. We would hear all these stations that are broadcasting towards other regions, but we would still hear them well enough to listen to them. But we're confronted with two problems: lack of broadcast towards North America, mixed in with much higher noise, equals bands seem dead when you tune around. But once you go to a quiet place, you notice that, man, bands aren't dead at all. What else do we have? What else do we have? Just saying, awesome memory. Yep. RJ Dakota, RCI was truly a great radio station. Keegan, it was too late by the time I learned about. Already gone before. Yeah, that's sad. Yeah, the Northern Service 9625 kilohertz. That was there for a while. John, I think we need to come up with a similar QRZ page of our own for the shortwave crowd. John Beckham, listening to Radio Australia to me was always a treat, primarily because it was so far away in North Florida. Yeah, same here. I mean, we were listening to something that was the other side of the world. Yeah, Keegan, the transmitter site at Sackville was destroyed very, very fast after Radio Canada International. Because when Radio Canada International was, so first of all, little history for those that don't know. In the 90s, Radio Canada International was supposed to leave shortwave way before it did. And what happened is there was a coordinated effort with all the listeners to write to the Ministry of External Affairs, to write to Prime Minister, to tell them you cannot shut down Radio Canada International. It is valuable. And that effort was actually big enough that they reversed the decision and kept Radio Canada International going. But when they moved Radio Canada to the CBC itself, that had to take care of the budget and everything, the CBC didn't want that. For them, it was Radio Canada International cost like $16.5 million a year to operate, which was, pennies in a budget of billions and billions. And Radio Canada International thought, you know what? We could use that $16 million and have our own stuff. Why maintain an international stuff, an international presence? The worst part about it is that in law, the Canadian government had a requirement that an international service had to be maintained, but they just didn't care. And they just destroyed all of that. They put it as a web thing, which honestly, first of all, does not even sound like, Radio Canada International from what it was on shortwave. And they wanted to have that money. And there was a lot of actions going on to try to bring it back. And the CBC saw that the only way that this could be killed is let's destroy the transmitter sites as fast as possible, because once it's gone, we're not going to build it back. And that's really what happened. The antennas were removed, and I believe the transmitters were sent to stations in other countries that wanted to have shortwave transmitters. It was very, very sad because the location in Sackville, New Brunswick was one of the best in the world to cover the entire planet. And also it was one of the most modern shortwave transmitter sites at the time around the world. They had invested in modernizing all that equipment at the time. It's really sad what happened. Mike WX50, nice to have you on board from Northwest Arkansas. Mesmerized by the flickering flames. You might be hearing even the crackle, because I'm hearing the crackle in the back. Yeah, Dwayne, I'm going to come to that. I just saw that in the pile of QSLs I got here. I got that QSL from that crazy nut in Japan, and there will be what else do we have? Charlie McKee, Radio Canada International. A mistake to lose another Harrow moment. Yeah. Royal Canadian Air Force. Yeah, that's the funny show. Sunwave Mexico came into my radio on 14275 upper sideband. Cool. Ajay Dakota says lack of variety, not going down on religion, but there's too much of it and the noise. Yeah, I agree. Mad Radio DXer, what used to fascinate me back then was receiving broadcasts meant for Asia and Africa. Now it is almost a normal thing. Yep, absolutely. John Becken, thanks for the clarification regarding why stations seemed louder years ago. Zen Faros, Radio Romania, music, 5910, very clear. Frank Ireland, loved Radio Australia also, could hear it well in the morning. Yep, 9580 was such an amazing frequency. Mobile Armor Strike Command, 408 positive contacts with parks on the air. Cool. Dave, I was picking up very weak signal on 12,000 kilohertz with a female voice speaking in English. Anyone has an idea? Possibly Radio Havana, Cuba. Radio Havana, Cuba. David, KJ4CMY, the Miser RCI is really sad. RJ Dakota used to be up early on the weekends just to listen to Radio Australia. Jason V9 JMC, those were beautiful transmitters in Sackville. A shame they were shut down and shipped out. Yep, definitely. Really sad. MDK2, demolition of the transmitter site is one of the most haunting parts of the specters of shortwave. That's as much due to the cinematography of it as the subject itself. Yeah, for us, it touches us because it's part of our life and our past, you know. Peter, KB2DY, nice to have you on board. Chris Powell, I'm drinking Screwdriver, which is orange juice and vodka. So we had our friend ask the question a little earlier, well, not long ago, about the story behind something that is definitely going to haunt us and was something quite amazing. So, you know, I talk about how WRMI, the broadcast that they have right now that is, you know, Supreme Master TV for me is a little spooky and a little, something's not right. So here's something that I'm going to show you. So this guy, this is a QSL card from a station called Radio Omshinrikyo. Now, for those that wonder, that is the guru of a sect called Omshinrikyo that was behind the sarin gas attack in the Tokyo subway in the 90s. They were broadcasting on shortwave via a Russian transmitter site, as we learned last week. So I got a QSL card. I've written to get my QSL card from them. And so this is the back of the QSL. I don't know if you guys can read a little bit, but here we go. So the QSL card to my name for a reception report of November 23rd, 1994 at 2030 UTC on 6110 kilohertz. 2030 UTC on 6110 kilohertz. So 23 of November 1994. The reason I find spooky the Supreme Master broadcast is because the broadcasts that came out of this were very similar. You know, be enlightened, save the planet, be happy, be kind to animals. It's so similar that when I listen to Supreme Master, the only thing that comes to mind is this nut job. And so I get this QSL. I think nothing about it more than that. I'm happy I got my QSL card, which is very unique because if you got one of those, you know, that broadcast didn't last long. It was, you know, maybe a year or two, and then there was that group that went nuts. And one day I'm looking and watching the news, and what I see is there's a sarin gas attack in the Tokyo subway. And then they put the picture of this guy on the TV, and they say, well, it apparently comes from a cult that is Omshinrikyo. And I'm like, what? I got a QSL card from that nut job. And I'm like, wow. Okay. I got a QSL card from a shortwave broadcast from a cult that tried to poison people in the Tokyo subway. That's part of history. Crazy. And that is funny because what often seems as the most down to earth, innocent broadcasts like Supreme Master TV are often the craziest cults of all. I mean, um, we often talk about, hearing, Stare on the air and so on. He's crazy and everything. But he's crazy in his own way, and he's mostly what he wants is he's first of all he's a pedophile and a little girl grabber, and he should have gone in jail a long time ago before he died. But mostly what he was wanting money and more money and more money, and have his cult following and groping girls. This guy was groping girls because in the story that I've read about this guy, he was also groping girls and everything. But the broadcasts were like very, let's be open to our world and save animals and plants and whatever. So when I hear Supreme Master, I'm like, wow, it sounds like the same kind of nut jobs, but in a different era, So that's one hell of a QSL, I can tell you that. One hell of a QSL. It has a big story behind it. So, yep. Keegan, I'm drinking Texas tea brand, Buddy strawberry tea, white tea. Cool. What else do we have? David McCormick, always loved the RCIDX Listeners Digest show with Ian McFarland. I got to go for the shortwave radio reviews. Yeah, it was the way to go back then. Absolutely. Yeah, Japanese nutcase. John Beckham, 5025 coming in Northeast Florida. Radio Rebelde. Mad Radio the Exer says, now that is creepy. Matt, MDK2, wow, that was just a few months before the sarin attack. Yeah, and that broadcast was not, from what I know, was not there for that long before. So I got that at that moment. 1994, I'm going to tell you guys a little story of that year for me, because that was the time. So I was working full time from 89 to 93. And in 93, the end of what was it? Late 93, I had left my job, and I had about a year, more than a year at that time, where I was just taking it easy and enjoying life, because I thought this might be the only time I ever have to really do so and just take care of myself and have fun. So November of 94 is in that time frame, the year where I'm just at home or going outside and enjoying life, but did a lot of shortwave listening that year. My shortwave radio, the Kenwood R5000, was running all the time. Where I was living, noise was very low. So a lot of QSLs that I have from very unusual stations like that one come from the fact that I was monitoring shortwave so much back then. So that was a very unique year. So a lot of that comes from that. So I got that, and yeah, a few months later they were crazy, David KJ4CMY, I heard that station once. I thought the transmitters were in Japan. Guess they were in Russia. Yeah, so the cult was in Japan, but the transmitters were either in Russia or one of those Russian, Baltic states like Moldova or something like that. Because I think I said Matt MDK2 or somebody who had come up last week when we talked about it, or 2 weeks ago, of the transmitter site for that broadcast. But man, that is a creepy QSL by itself. Actually, it's a very creepy QSL by itself, and when I hear Supreme Master, I hear the same rhetoric. I hear the same thing. I am actually creeped out by Supreme Master TV on WRMI. I can tell you that. So, I should have the card tested for sarin. It could be evidence. Well, if I have a seizure on camera, I hope somebody calls 911. Yep, RGA Dakota. You're here to the world history. Absolutely. We were part, especially all of us going down to the Cold War era. We went through history, through radio, and lived it even more than people at home, the regular folks that are your friends and family. They were watching what was happening through the outlets of TV and radio and their local media. We were living it through the ears and through the voices of the people that even were in that situation. We were hearing Radio Moscow talk about it. We were hearing Radio Berlin give us their East German account of what was happening. We were even more in it than anybody else with our shortwave radios. And still happens today. Just have to be listening to the right station at the right time. David McCormick says, Trophy QSL. Yeah, pretty much. It is creepy. It is creepy. My jam, as a Christian, you overcome our mysteries and legit, but that doesn't make all the good ones bad. Oh, for sure. For sure. MDK2, I like the mighty KBC originates in the Netherlands, but transmits from Germany. Yep. Patrick Fitzpatrick's story on shortwave listening about Russia going on shortwave to Arctic communities. John Beckham, the hobby of shortwave radio listening is very entertaining because you never know what you're might receive. Indeed. Matt, Supreme Master by itself is a name that gives pause. It sounds like the kind of place that will ask all your worldly possessions and cut off contact with non-believing friends and family. Pretty much. Yeah, James Jones and the Jamestown incident. Absolutely. A screwdriver is anti-sarin. That's saving me from the bad guys. Okay, one station that has a little bit of history here. So, by the way, just before Radio Australia stopped QSLing, instead of QSL cards, just to show you guys, this is from 1992. They were actually sending out QSL letters for a while. I remember when I got this, I was kind of bummed out because I remembered all the beautiful QSL cards from Radio Australia. When I got this, it was like, really? A QSL letter? Okay. So, and the end here with one final point. Radio Australia is only able to acknowledge one QSL per broadcast schedule period. Reception reports in excess of this limit will be welcome, but regretfully not acknowledged. Yeah. So here's a station, and this one has a little bit of history behind it. So this is a QSL card from Voice of Free China. So you're going to say, what's Voice of Free China exactly? So here's the back of the QSL. Voice of Free China. Voice of Free China is what we call Radio Taiwan International today. So there's a little bit of history with Voice of Free China, Radio Taiwan International. One of the first tidbits of history with Voice of Free China is that they were the first ones to relay from what today is the WRMI transmitter site. So the first time I heard Voice of Free China, this is a broadcast that was on 5950 kilohertz. Funny, one of the WRMI frequencies today. 02 UTC in November of 94. And I've got a lot of QSLs from Voice of Free China, by the way. I think even there's more. Is that Voice of Free China? Yep. Voice of Free China. Here's two more QSLs from them. Voice of Free China. One from 1990. The one doesn't have a date. This one is from 1991. The first one up there, I think, is from the 80s, like in 1984, 85. So these are two more Voice of Free China QSLs. Here's one. And here's another one. So Voice of Free China, which was Taiwan, was the first to transmit relayed via the Okeechobee, Florida transmitter site. It was one of the first to do a relay like that. And that was in the time when the transmitter site was owned by WYFR Family Radio out in Oakland, California. So that was like kind of an original one, because when you would hear Voice of Free China, and the first years, I thought it was coming out of Taiwan directly because I had no idea about relays. It's when I learned about relays that I realized that, oh, that's why it's coming in all the time quite well. It's relayed from Florida. It's not from Taiwan directly. It's kind of funny that today Radio Taiwan International is not relayed through WRMI. It would be nice to have them relayed through there. Unfortunately, they're not. So Voice of Free China eventually changed their name to Radio Taiwan. Voice of Free China gave me an interesting moment. I was in high school, and I had a friend, actually one of my high school pals that I still have on my Facebook as a friend, actually, came from Taiwan. Actually, he was born here, but his parents were Taiwanese. And we were always competing in math because we were really good in math both. So we were trying, like, every time there was a test, we were trying to beat the other. So it's like, how much you got? Oh, you got 94. I got 96, or sometimes the other way around. But one day I got a big envelope from Voice of Free China, because usually it was small envelopes, schedules, QSLs, stickers. I remember having a big, very colorful sticker on one of my somewhere here about that is Voice of Free China. And it looks like a dragon. And it was a big magazine. And it was an English language magazine with Taiwanese news stuff and recipes. And it's a very, very beautiful magazine. And I don't know how many times I just like opened the magazine and looked through it, because I was like mesmerized. I was so happy to have that, So one day I brought the magazine to school and to show him. And he looks at the magazine and he's like, wow, this really comes from Taiwan. And I said, yeah, absolutely. So he brought the magazine to his parents. And the next day he brings back the magazine and says, my parents were amazed that you could get Taiwan radio, and you have that magazine it's in my parents recognize a magazine. It's an authentic magazine that comes out in Taiwan in English and in Chinese. And so they were like really surprised, and he was surprised that I could hear something like that. So that's the story that comes with Voice of Free China, that still on the air today, called Radio Taiwan International. Last time I heard Radio Taiwan International, I believe, is in the French service that they have. In the summertime, they have a 22-meter band frequency that comes from, I think, comes from the Eastern France relay, and it's decent enough to be heard in the only on Sunday, though. But Radio Taiwan International still exists. It's just that it's a much smaller service than it used to be. So Voice of Free China, which became Radio Taiwan International, and a little story behind all of this. What else do we have? Let me just check it out here. Dimitri, that radio station was just a ghost hunter shortwave station. David McCormick, signed letter from Radio Australia is fantastic. John Beckham, wow, that bummer, a QSL letter. The nerve of Radio Australia. Yeah, you know, it's you know that you're that really that guy that expects to have those nice, beautiful QSL cards, and it's like, how the hell is that a QSL letter? And imagine today, everybody would be happy to have just that QSL letter, even I. But you know, it's like when I got that, I was like, what is this? I wanted a card with a beautiful picture on it. Oh man. Jeff King, what do you call a drink with vodka and milk of magnesia? A Phillips screwdriver. David McCormick, Voice of Free China was never free, dear listeners. Well, Taiwan was kind of free because Taiwan is separated from China, mainland China, so it doesn't have it's a more open system, actually. Mike WX50. Night Jam. Video request. Can you post a video of the most popular shortwave stations? The most popular ones everybody should know about. Okay. Okay, that's an interesting one. Oh, yeah, okay. Let me think about that. Tom DXer liked Voice of Free China in 1968 on 15125. And back then, they were probably from Taiwan directly. Chromatic Moon, nice to have you on board from Malaysia. Nice to have you on board. Toast and Loaf, my dad was stationed in Taiwan back in the 70s in the Air Force. Charlie McKee, to all our, oops, just lost it here for a second. New shortwave listeners, don't let our old tales make you think there's nothing on. No, there's still stuff on for sure. Hey, Kimberly, nice to have you here. K6YYL from California, as we are reminiscing about stories of the past. Mad Radio DXer, Radio Taiwan, International, Chinese service are usually jammed these days. Yeah, a lot of them are. MDK2, a few years, I was getting RTI in English here in the early hours in the morning, but they ceased that broadcast. Yeah, I haven't heard Radio Taiwan since at least last summer in the French one. I haven't heard an English Radio Taiwan broadcast in years. Patrick Fitzpatrick, how many listeners Radio Taiwan gets for their French service on shortwave? You know, Sheldon Harvey was telling me a story of he had one through Voice of Turkey, a trip through Turkey back in the 80s, late 70s, early 80s. And apparently the French language service of the Voice of Turkey was not really getting any letters of anyone in North America listening to them in French. And they were really wondering if anybody listens to them in French. It was crazy. So Greg is listening to Transoceanic. Here's hams on it without BFO or without SSB. Yeah, there's AMers that you can hear. Actually, ham radio operators on the 80-meter band, for example. Mike WX50 QSL letters were always a bit of a letdown, which stations were sending beautiful cards that you could put up on a bulletin board and enjoy. Yeah. We were kind of, probably a little bit too, I don't know. Yeah, in the 80s, I'm trying to remember Taiwan. So Taiwan probably was a little different back then, yeah. David KJ4CMY, have a full data QSL letter from Radio RSA. I still like it better than a QSL card from then. John Beckham, shortwave station list from usual would be very nice and useful indeed. Jeff King, I like the idea of posting the most popular radio stations and frequencies. So we're gonna be checking data for sure. For sure. So anyway, it could be cool to hear Jill hold a shortwave net on amateur radio HF. Ian, I heard some conversation in English and Spanish down around 3900. That's amateur radio. That's the 80-meter band of amateur radio, 3900 kilohertz, Ian. Dimitri, what happened to the shortwave station in the state of Maine? You mean WBCQ? It's still on the air. It's just that if you're not hearing it, probably your propagation is not having it there. But the 9330 is on. I hear it all the time here throughout the day. Matt, MDK2, learned the effectiveness of Chinese jamming with that English transmitter of RTI. It was followed up on the same frequency, had the same power and azimuth. But a Mandarin transmitter and the CNR1 jammer would kick in several S units stronger. At the time, it was impressive. Matt Reader the Extra, to be honest about old stations and QSLs is making me want to cry remembering when I switched on my shortwave radio indoors and there was signal galore. Yeah, but you know what? You got to be happy because you in the UK have way more stuff to listen to than us in North America, even with high noise level, because there's a lot of broadcasts that are making you there. So yeah, 4790, one of those frequencies that they are having with testing right now. They're testing it throughout February and see if they're going to keep it. David McCormick, my recollection of Voice of Free China was that they were pro-China. Yeah, it's possible that they were different back then. Absolutely. And that would explain the free China side of the, like we always say, any station that calls itself free voice of something or the Democratic Republic or something, they're always kind of like messed up or, communist or whatever and really closed down. Rob, I did say hello at the start of the stream, but did not read it, so perhaps it had not come through properly. I think I said hi to you at the beginning, but hello again. There's no problem there. The latest on the buzzer, it's buzzing. That's pretty much what I have to say. It's buzzing. Johnny McKee, any links for old Radio Canada international shows specific about shortwave? Go on YouTube. YouTube has a lot of broadcasts from the past. Just type Radio Canada International Shortwave, and you'll see dozens of videos from old broadcasts. So, yeah, we were spoiled. You are spoiled. Absolutely. Take care, Dwayne, and see you Saturday. Nice to have you on board. So, one station that a lot of you are probably very, very jealous because they haven't QSL'd in ages. Like, I'm going to show you the back of the cards so you guys can read the top of the cards. What does it say? If you can read it, It says the BBC. Yep, 2 cards from the BBC External Services. So these are 2 BBC QSL cards. And I know a lot of you are jealous because they haven't QSL'd in ages. Apparently, maybe some of the transmitter sites might still be QSLing if you know how to do it. But BBC QSL cards. Just gonna check here. There must be. Is there any dates? What do I have here? So thank you for a reception report of our transmission, but there was no frequencies and no date on them. But I would tell you that these QSL cards come from the 80s when they actually did. And if you notice, there's a post stamp. They'd send you only a card. You would not get anything else from the BBC except a QSL, which was cool anyways, because that's one of the things you wanted was a card. So I got the cards. So I can consider myself lucky today of having BBC QSL cards. That's for sure. BBC with that 5975 kilohertz frequency was amazingly good. They were using a relay for that one. That was, what was the relay? So Bonaire was transmitter. It was Trans World Radio, but they were using another one, the BBC. So let's just do a little United Kingdom BBC World Service from the past a little bit. Let's post some things. There must be some external broadcast. So here we go. External from BBC World Service. Well, they had changed a lot over times. So Antigua. That's what I was forgetting. Antigua. So this is from the BBC Caribbean Relay Antigua. That was the broadcast on 5975 coming from Antigua. They were broadcasting to North America from there. The signal was always great. And so
this is BBC Caribbean Relay Station, broadcasting to Central America and the Caribbean area on 6.195 megahertz in the 49-meter band.
BBC European Service. (1940). Wow. Here is BBC General Forces Program, 1945. So there were different types of broadcasts.
This is the General Forces Program presenting Radio Newsreel, General Overseas Edition number 43.
Here is one that I always had a fond memory every time I heard it. Was that the
You're tuned to the General Overseas Service of the BBC. This is the British Broadcasting Corporation.
The what they call Lili Bodero, something like that. That was something that I always that is the typical BBC intro for shortwave for me. BBC shortwave. That you want here? Here we go. BBC World Service, Lily Berlero with Pips.
BBC World Service. We're now closing on 15.22 megahertz. We continue on 17.84.
5975 North American service in the 80s at the top of the hour. And I remembered when they would say that. And they had that playing afterwards. So that is definitely something that is a big memory for anybody in North America, particularly, and everywhere. BBC World Service, 5975 in the evening. 15070 in the daytime was always pretty much always good throughout the day. So we had our BBC 24-hour outlet pretty much covered here in North America back then. Today, it's a little more difficult to get that for sure. RJDA Dakota, a couple of QSL cards from Radio RSA. John Beckham, old Marine band, shipped to shore broadcast from years ago, always very entertaining. Dimitri, I was heard that any who interested in the broadcast to the world, you can simply rent airtime for a small fee. Man Reader DX, yep, we're spoiled, absolutely. What else do we have? Let me just go down here. So let me just go down. Free as in beer, Democratic People's Republic of Shortwave listeners. A case of Budweiser to every listener. Oh man, Carl, back in the old days, we didn't have SDRs. Yeah, no, there was some CW, but most of us didn't have anything. But there was, there was some RTTY and stuff like that in the 80s. Zen Farrell's figured out the refreshment situation. It is a glass of milk and some excellent ginger snaps, nicely accompanied by more music from Radio Romania 5910. Mika Delmich, I totally understand the thrill of a QSL card, but the many letters I have with personal comments from the station seem so much better as they actually read my letter. I'm going to come to one because I was poo-pooing Radio Australia because they had such amazing QSL cards that receiving a letter was kind of deceiving. But I'm going to show you an example where I was very happy to get a letter right now, and that I didn't mean to say that the letter wasn't great, because a letter could be very, very nice. So I'm going to show you an example right now, and there's a nice story with it too. Rob, very cool cards. David McCormick, external BBC was the bomb. K6YYL, I wish I would have taught to record some RCI back in the 90s and also noted my home noise level then. It would have been an interesting compare. Yep. John Beckham, I miss the bells of the Big Ben and old BBC World Service broadcasts. Jeff King, I was a teen. I wrote the Voice of Nicaragua. There was a coup before my letter got there. Months later, I got a QSL letter. Revolutionary greetings to you from the Voice of Nicaragua. Wow. Pretty crazy. Take care, Thomas Olson. It was nice to have you here. Jason V9JMC, if I recall, used to listen to BBC on 5960, but I think that may have been in the mid-90s. Yeah, 5975 was the BBC. 5960 was mostly in the evening here. 5960 was often Radio Canada International. But in later years, there could have been some changes on the frequencies also. Patrick Fitzpatrick, London Calling, monthly magazine that contained program listing for the BBC World Service Shortwave. Final issue was published December 2004. Yeah, Antigua for the BBC. VOA also used Antigua. Oh, that's interesting. Dimitri, 5970 in Spanish, 6000 in English language broadcast now. Yeah, 6000 is Cuba, 5970 I think is WWN. Bonne nuit, TVDXer. À la prochaine. À la prochaine. No, never got a QSL from the American Forces Network, unfortunately. I would have loved. There were a lot of stations I didn't write to. I didn't know where to write. You guys, you got to remember one thing. Today, we Google whatever. And we get address, we get emails and stuff. But remember that back in the 80s, you're like, where do I write for a station? You have no idea how many times all I've done was, and like the BBC, I probably did like BBC World Service, London, England, and just mailed it. And it would actually go. Radio Moscow. Most of the times I wrote Radio Moscow, Moscow, Russia. Stamp, mailbox. It would get there and they would answer back. So there's a lot of stations that are like that. But man, there's a lot of stuff. I didn't know where to send. I didn't know I have any address or anything. Ian, do you recommend any French language you should tune around? Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in French. Actually, when you are bilingual, or if you speak more than one language, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, you increase the amount of stuff that you can listen on shortwave, and it makes it even more interesting. And the K2 says, I like being able to catch the bow bells intervals on their 05 UT. But they only do them in winter. When they switch to summer frequencies, those same transmissions don't have them. Yeah. And DX or BBC World Service had a DXing program back then. I cannot remember what it was called. Chris, G7W VEO, we don't speak in that funny BBC accent in England anymore. Oh, man. What else do we have? Yeah, V for victory. So, yeah, BBC 49YT. BBC is related to the Ascension Islands. That is a lot of the frequencies we hear in North America, East Coast at least. 11810, 12095 from the Ascension Islands comes in fairly well. So, we have Moises that says, it was a pleasure to always find a BBC on 3975 without a fail in Western Europe. Yep. Yep. Pretty, oh yeah, you had to tune real slow on the analog radios back then for sure. David KJ4CMY in Germany, listen to the BBC World Service on 648 kilohertz. Greg likes the cats. Smoke and steam. Use a pencil with eraser to tune DX 440. John Beckham, I am convinced that today's made shortwave radios are more sensitive than the older model, perhaps because of the increased noise table. Actually, I think we've reached a level, and I often say it, we've reached a level of sensitivity that you really have nothing more to add. All the radios today are so sensitive. They get everything. They are way more sensitive than 70s and 80s radios. Most of the portables today are and would beat probably most of the portables we purchased in the 80s or the 70s. It's simply a question of the improvements of our electronics and nothing more. It's really just we've reached a point where the price point of electronics versus its performance, where you got great radios at a great price, and they are at the top of their performance level, pretty much. What else do we have? Dimitri 5950, very clear, good audio. That's WRMI. DK2 says, yeah, they probably had their own post office branches back in those days. So BBC London, UK was probably adequate. Yep. Toastin Love, that sometimes that works with letters to Santa. Like WX50, various stations at DX programs would give addresses for obtaining QSLs, amongst other great info. Yeah. Smoke and Steam later was checking out online SDR receivers. Patrick Fitzpatrick, I have a QSL from Radio St. Helena near Ascension. Yep, I got from one of their broadcasts too, back in the day. David McCormick would love to use his Texan 330 in the 80s. Yep, absolutely. DK2 says, if you saw a scene in a movie set in a mailroom, it gives you an idea of how much mail institutions received. The service knew the places that got large volumes, so a street address was not necessary. Zenfaro's multi-coupler has exploded Verdi and HF Plus Discovery on 6107.8 because on the exact same antenna, it is not present on the RSP Duo. Interesting. My WDX, I had a Kenwood R1000 back in the 80s. I wonder how much it would have compared with modern receivers back then. I mean, those were good radios. The Kenwood R1000 is probably one of the tops that could probably still today rival with the modern technology. So, but I mean, the prices for these radios back then were expensive like crazy. So we were talking about QSL letters and where, I seem to get a guy that didn't like them. Not necessarily. Here's one example. Pakistan Broadcasting that sent me this letter. So this letter says, so Pakistan Broadcasting Corporation headquarters even has a reference number. And this is for August of 1992. Dear sir, we gratefully acknowledge receipt of your letter regarding reception report of slow speed news bulletin beamed towards Southeast Asia between 0228 and 0245 UTC. I take this opportunity to inform you that we are there's a line right there. I can't read that line. So you may get our frequencies beamed towards. Oh, wait. Can't read it. So you may get our frequencies that are beamed towards west. What? I think it's West Africa under favorable conditions. So this one, does it say the frequency here? I think they're not mentioning the frequency, but I do remember the frequency. And it's going to give you an idea of how big the propagation conditions were with the high solar cycles. So I am tuning around. So I tell you guys all the time, tune around everywhere because you never know what's gonna appear and when. So I am tuning around the 13-meter band, which is where I found Radio Australia the first time ever in my life, 21740. I had never heard more than maybe 1 or 2 stations on the 13-meter band, especially at 02 UTC. Remember, we're in August. 0220 UTC, 28 UTC is 9:30 p.m. in Montreal. The sun is set for maybe a little more than an hour and a half. You don't expect that you're going to hear that much. I am tuning around and I hear this very, very faint signal. And I'm trying to make out what they're saying, and I hear slow speed news. I definitely hear those words. And I'm like, okay, something in slow speed news. It's in English. And at some point I hear this is the Pakistan Broadcasting Corporation. And I'm like, what? Pakistan. First time in my life I ever hear that station. So I made a reception report, sent it in, and got this cool QSL verification as a letter. And I mean, it's the only time ever. So that is the first and the last time I heard Pakistan on shortwave. And I mean, I would tune that frequency range a lot. Propagation was good enough that night that it actually made it, and I could hear it. But that's the first time and the last that I've ever heard Pakistan. So one of those really cool moments there. Shortwave, like the CC Skywares SB was a radio in this 1960, it would have been as big as 2-car garage. Oh, it would have been huge, and you would not even have had the stability and the performance of that radio today. Our JDA Dakota, most of the portable radios are actually almost on par or are actually better than standard rigs of the 50s or 60s. I would love to take it my 330 back in the 70s. Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Vacuum tube radios are interesting. Definitely. NDK2 says someone posted an old ad for a receiver from 1947 on a shortwave group for several $100s. I calculated that inflation would make it about $5,000 today. Imagine that. Pretty crazy. Patrick Fitzpatrick says Pakistan had the slow speed news in English for their foreign embassies to copy. So that's kind of interesting. Mike WX50 says has a logging of slow speed news from Pakistan 81 21595. David McCormick's shortwave stations relied heavily on the reception reports for quality transmission service. Today they can get emails from listeners and in real time. You know, today they don't need reception reports. And you know, if you had a station, I mean, you know, look at what the hams do. If you have a broadcast towards a country, you just go online to an SDR and you tune it to see if the signal's decent. Reception reports are really a novelty thing. They don't need to know that signal is there anymore. You know, pretty crazy. David McCormick, slow speed from VOA also to teach English over the air, usually heard to the Pacific service. John, even better, I would like to find a tabletop tube radio and plug it down in front of my grandchildren and say, have fun. They're going to be like, what is this? Sunwave, I would recall that the $5 million QSL because it is very rare and unique. NDK2, modern stations can do better than reception reports. Just find a Kiwi. Exactly. General consensus of all of our shortwave listeners out here might come to the conclusion that Radio Moscow was the loudest of broadcasters years ago. DK2, what's slow speed news? This is the first time I've heard of it. Yeah, even the Voice of America has that. It's really is a news bulletin that is dictated at a very slow speed to help people that are learning English or that don't have the best English in the world understand. And Voice of America actually still has that today. So you hear it, and so instead of saying like, the White House today has announced that, you would hear them saying, the White House today has announced that. So it's very slow, very clear, the pronunciation perfect, and really good, so that you can make it out real well. Man, I've heard the slow speed news on the VOA. I haven't heard it in a while, but I know that it's still there. But I've heard that so many times through the years. It's really for those that need to that want to learn English. Okay. Yeah, like VOA special English transmissions. Yep, absolutely. Patrick says, Pakistan News read normal speed, then transcription speed for embassy staff to write down. So the VOA is for non-English speakers that are learning, basically. And, cool AM radio. Nice to have you here from the Netherlands. Yeah, news in special English. Yeah, absolutely. So So this is there's a couple of QSLs that I like here. FIBA. Who remembers that? The Far East Broadcasting. So this is a QSL card from FIBA. And they were broadcasting from the Seychelles and the Indian Ocean. So Radio FIBA. And here's the back of the QSL. That definitely was one of those stations that you had to get it when you had it, because it wasn't that easy to actually get. But that here, I remember that I heard them several times with their broadcast on the shortwave bands. And I sent for a QSL, got a QSL back. That was kind of cool. Radio Thailand, one of those elusive heart stations in North America lately. Radio Thailand with their verification card here in the back. So Radio Thailand that I heard on what frequency back then? So it's a I can't even read it. 11835 in 1995. 11835. It's interesting. So Radio Thailand, Radio FIBA in Seychelles. That for me was exotic. Seychelles was like Indian Ocean stuff. It was like, this is very exotic stuff to listen to. And definitely some interesting. I believe a lot of the broadcasts were kind of religious, if I'm not mistaken. But man. That was nice to hear back then. That was in my high time of radio listening. Let me see here. Anything special? Oh, here we go. And we're going to talk about this and talk about an event also that I want to share. So earlier, and I'm going to post Voice of Greece email. Earlier, talked about the Voice of Greece. So in a Greek that I shared on the Shortwave group, in a Greek post, Greek language post, it seems that the government wants to shut down the shortwave services of Greece. So here's the Voice of Greece QSL card that I have. So Voice of Greece. This is from March of 1994, 9420 kilohertz, still same frequency as today. This is the back of the card. The Voice of Greece is in a position where it could be actually shut down on March 31st, which is, barely a month and a half, a little more than a month and a half from now. I posted the email on the channel here, and if I find any more ways of contacting them, I want to make a video tomorrow that I'll post on the Shortwave channel, and I will actually share a lot of the details of ways you can actually contact people. Now, this isn't the first time Voice of Greece is on the chopping block. Voice of Greece has been off the air for a while in the past. It's also in the big economic problems that Greece had. Many times they thought, well, let's shut down this service. But came back, kept going, and we hear them still today. So Voice of Greece might be going away. And one way you can help is to write that email. And tomorrow I will actually try to share as much details of anywhere you can write. There is one thing you got to do, guys. Okay. We talk about, and I hear all the times the complaining of, oh, well, that station's gone and there's nothing on shortwave. And I don't have time for complaining. I have time for let's do something about it. I'm doing something about it by these live shows. I'm doing something about you get off your butt and listen and do something and go outside. Yeah, you're not going to listen from your living room, maybe, but go outside to a park. You're going to see, you're going to hear stuff. This is why this exists also. You've got to react and you got to do something. And now it's time to do something that might change the course of a station that could be saved if enough people write in. Because the more people that write, the more they have proof that their service is important and they can show that to the people that take decisions. Many times in the past, doing this saved stations. Many times. It's time to save Voice of Greece. Let's write in and let's say, look, I've heard that maybe you could, be switched off on March 31st. It's something awful. You should not. And it's important to keep it the international service. Give them reasons why an international service is important, like learning more about Greece, like having news about what's happening in Greece, about the importance for the Greek community to have a service from their home country, for example. So it's time to do something about it, because I see posts all the time of people enjoying the Greek music, enjoying listening to Voice of Greece, even though they don't have an English language broadcast anymore and so on. Still, there's a lot of stuff that could be interesting, and I know a lot of you enjoy the Greek music. Write to them. Don't just sit there and do nothing about it. How long does it take to write to a station? 5 minutes. Take 5 minutes of your time. That can make a difference. Because, if you don't do anything, that's why stations go away. I'm sure that if we were more proactive in the past, we could have avoided some of the shutdowns. Not all of them, because some of them are pre-programmed and this is the way it goes. But some of them might have, stayed on. So it's time to act. It's time to write. The email's there, and I will try to find as much information tomorrow to share, to write to other, maybe we can write to there's other means of contacting them and so on. But do write and do take the time to let them know that they should not leave shortwave. Okay? This is very important, guys. Please. So let me just go down a little bit here. Mr. Paul the Cat's doing well. Pharaoh's got a VOA QSL back in the day from Special English from the Philippines. MDK2 went to Russia in 1994. We took a weekend trip to Moscow. I could see nuclear cooling towers from our hotel window. You couldn't help but thinking of Chernobyl. Yep, Chernobyl. Yep, absolutely. Oh, man. Chris G7VEO, BBC used to broadcast received pronunciation English that did not contain any trace of a regional accent. Huh. Yep, that definitely is a surprise. I also was surprised that Voice of Greece kept continuing, even after all the problems, the economic problems that they had, for sure. So take the time to do something, guys. Okay, because if you don't, nobody will do it for you. Ian just earned Greece for the first time a couple of days ago. Chris Bell, this still self-addressed stamped envelopes back in those days for QSL cards? Most of them, I've probably not 90% of the cards you would get back then, you would just get them. You would not have to add anything. And the ones that were harder, I would actually put like a couple of US dollar bills in the envelope. But depending on the country and the station, because not all stations had budgets for that. Hank Parr, nice to have you here from Los Angeles. So do something about it, guys. Okay, it's very important. Do something about it. No one will do it for you, and if you do nothing, then don't complain that that station went away, because the only people that will be able to complain about a station going away are the people that took the time to write in and tried to do something and change the course of history there. So MDK2, keep in mind that email is someone's personal email. It's strange, but that's how Voice of Greece does it. It's not a catch-all email like other stations have. So be nice. Absolutely. Got to be polite. Got to explain yourself. Explain who you are. Explain who you are and the reason you're writing. So, Zinfaro, still, when you get the address, we send email to put it in a Facebook group. Yeah, well, I have that group there, but we're going to check it out. Matt, by the way, those who will be there at Shortwave Festival, it's a virtual and only $10, and that's what I was about to go and talk about in a few seconds. There's an event coming that I want everybody to talk, to share. Preston, I picked up Supreme Master TV on my second shortwave one day, and I got to say, wow, that was a pretty interesting program, not the least. I didn't think so. 0-100, nice to have you here. KD2ANN in New Jersey. Leslie, anybody listen to KMTS shows, the imaginary shortwave stations that broadcast via WRMI and channel 292? So I'm going to try to share as much information tomorrow with all of this. I got caught off guard because I got that news like half an hour before the show started, or an hour maybe. Madrid DXer, what if Voice of Greece shuts down? Their employees will keep the station running like back in the credit crunch during the early 2010s when it was also shutting down. Yeah, and there's even more than that, because I'm talking about shortwave, but also they were talking about medium wave and a lot of outlets shutting down altogether. So Mickey Dalmich, further to the Voice of Greece, that report today might have been about medium wave, or as we call it here in North America, AM. That makes more sense since European nations are shutting down AM medium wave. Shortwave maybe. So yeah, they're kind of following a trend. 9420. Our voice of Greece is 9420, and it is heard pretty much something like 19. It's 19 to 24. Says Yogi Me. So Yogi says 19 to 24 UT, Monday to Saturday, and 9420 0 to 08 Tuesday to Sunday. So thanks for sharing that. 9420 is really, really strong in general. MK2 says, go ahead and talk about Shortwave Fest. More people will listen to you than read my comments. Would be nice to see a lot of people there. Man Radio DXer medium wave service was also shut down back in the area. Employees kept it on the air. Used received 1512. So something's coming up, and I want you guys to participate. Okay, we're trying to get as much people on that bandwagon. So every year for the past 35 years, there's been something called the NASWA Shortwave Festival. Now, for years, that's been an online event that for years that has been. Let me just start over. I got distracted by email. So for years, it's been in-person event in Pennsylvania. There's been different places, but lately in the last couple of in-person meetings, it was in Plymouth Meeting, Pennsylvania. And people had to attend physically there at the Winterfest. Now, last year, pandemic showed us that we had to do a event in a different way. And the event was virtual for the first time last year. I'm just going to get to here so I can actually show you the page. So for the first time last year, they made an event that was a virtual event via Zoom, and it was a great success. What's cool about this virtual event, at least, is the fact that it gives you the opportunity to join in if you cannot go in person to an event like that. It consists of a lot of very interesting lectures about radio. It has a lot to offer in radio fun. It's a 2-day event, virtual event. It's happening March 4th and March 5th. Winter Shortwave Fest is a conference of radio hobbyists of all stripes, from DC to daylight. Historically, every year, scores of hobbyists have descended on the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania suburbs for a weekend of camaraderie. The fest is sponsored by NASWA, the North American Shortwave Association, but it covers much more than just shortwave. Medium wave, AM, scanning, satellite TV, pirate broadcasting are among the other topics of the fest covers. In 2022, the 35th annual Winter Shortwave Festival will again be virtual. All activities will be conducted online via Zoom webinar platform. It's $10, guys, for the 2 days. It's such an inexpensive price to pay to join in and have a lot of fun. You don't even have to talk or participate in a specific way. You can just join and watch the different events happening that weekend. So to give you an example, the virtual Winter Shortwave Fest program includes so first of all, the Canadian International DX Club will have the Bob Brown Memorial Hospitality Suite. So when in between presentations, and even if a presentation might not be of something that is interest you, you can join the hospitality suite and, you know, say hi to everybody and see what everybody's up to. The schedule is Friday, March 4th. So it starts at 18 UTC. The first presentation is setting up your monitoring post, how to wire yourself into a corner without really trying, by Tom Swisher. 1930 UTC, famous hams past and present. This is by Skip, that is often in the chat room here, N2EI. So Uncle Skip will invite you to play Guess Who's the Ham, a trip through quirky ham radio history. So that's going to be very interesting. 21 UTC, the Free Radio Forum by Larry Will. Mysterious signals that go bump in the night, odd sounds and odd frequencies in the middle of the afternoon. So there's going to be some interesting stuff there, definitely. Saturday, March 5th, 01 UTC, which is still Friday night for North America. The Shortwave Shindig in Exile. Again, David Gorin. From a secret location, David's annual freeform extended celebration of the medium. This time, it shapes up like this. The Zoom warm-up, 01 to 03 UT, shortwave-related music videos, a review of radio-related bits and bobs from the past year, an update on the Brooklyn Pirate radio sound map, and a few surprises. 03 to 04, it will be broadcast live via WRMI on 7570 kilohertz. And there's a lot of stuff there to listen to. What happens next? The next day, we have the EDXC, the European DX console, at 1445 UT, 1530 UTC on March the 5th, the Saturday. The Adventure of the Radio Andorra Revival, Christian Guibaudot, Assistant Secretary General of the EDXC, going to talk about that. 18 UT, A Radio Journey Across 7 Continents by Bruce Churchill. What started as a simple exposition of my hobby, memoirs, and a collection of QSL cards over my years, and a hobby morphed into a pseudo-geography history story as I look beyond just the QSL cards and what they represent. So there's going to be a lot of fun listening to that for sure. 20 hours UTC, Back to the Classics by Dan Robinson. More than 50 years later, with 100 plus radios still in the stable, including some of the top receivers ever made. So Dan Robinson is going to show us his collection of vintage receivers. 23 UT, in memoriam, Sheldon Harvey will have recognition for those friends and notables in the hobby who have passed away over the last year. And, well, two guys that you might know their names. 2315 UTC, the last presentation that's going to happen on Saturday. The radio hobby, the changing state of what we do. That will be Sheldon Harvey and me doing that presentation. So it says, tired of hearing about stations leaving shortwave, how radio is dying, and that there's nothing to listen out there? Are you concerned about what the future holds for what we do as radio hobbyists? Well, the future is now. So 2 Canadians from Montreal discussed how they have been working hard to address the challenge and will suggest some innovative ways to make what we do interesting. So, okay, guys, that 2 days of different, virtual events, presentations of all sorts, plus the virtual hospitality suite by the CIDX. I mean, if you want to have fun, it's that is it. Last year, I had a blast. I was there throughout pretty much all of the events. It was a lot of fun to watch the presentations. Very interesting stuff. As you see here, there's a lot of stuff that's interesting. So, if I haven't convinced you that you have to be there, well, move your ass and go pay that $10 fee. You pay it with PayPal. You don't need a PayPal account. You can just use your credit card through PayPal to pay for the Shortwave Festival. If you want to learn more, swlfest.com. swlfest.com. And through there, you can also pay your $10 for the March 4th and 5th, Friday and Saturday, virtual Zoom event. It's going to be a blast. Come on, guys. You got to join in, okay? And you're going to have a lot of fun with that. Okay. What else? iStation Z. We thought Radio Canada folks could keep things going during their closing, but it couldn't happen. Too bad. Yep. So David says, I just sent an email to the Voice of Greece. Everyone can do it. Absolutely. Absolutely. It doesn't have to be long, though, you know. Mike WX50, my email didn't go through. Strange. Leslie, interesting show broadcasting on Sunday, 23 UTC 9395. Matt, Shortwave Fest being online is terrific. I hope they keep it online. Well, that's what we were talking about. That's what we were talking about. It is a event that needs to stay. You know, if next year, for example, in-person attendance is available and allowed, they'll have no choice but to keep a virtual side to it, because I think everybody got hooked to that now, and that's the way that moving forward they'll have to do a hybrid thing. It's going to have to be like that. Mad Reader DX, I shared it on the Facebook group. It is a Greek page where they are mentioning that the government is doing something to cut the funding of Voice of Greece. And I believe Shortwave Listening Post has a posting about it. But the website that I shared is in Greek language only. And they would be leaving Shortwave on March 31st. So, okay. John Bacon, we have to get inflation in order, as this is a culprit most likely in Greece. Oh, it's possible, but you know, when any country in the world, what happens? What do you cut when you want to cut something? People cut if that email doesn't work, by the way, because Matt says my email came back as blocked. Because what could be happening is that it's not impossible that if too many people send an email, something is not happening. What I will do, I will share tomorrow. I'll make a video and I will share tomorrow different ways to contact Voice of Greece. I'm going to try to find, there must be a lot of ways that we can maybe contact different people in different ways for the Voice of Greece, and we're going to check that out. So the Shortwave Fest is absolutely a lot of fun, and you guys got to be there. Really, really got to be there for sure. So it's possible that the email is not working. I'm gonna try to find a decent email. So okay, so that email probably has a problem. Rob, thank you for the link. If you do have PayPal, though, Mad Max 2069, if you have a PayPal account, you can link it directly to your bank account and send the money directly to. They give you the email to send it to on the web page. It is very festive and very, very cool. Honestly, you guys have to be there. If you want to have fun and have fun a whole weekend with radio, you guys are gonna have to be there for sure. So, okay, Voice of Greece. Here we go. We've got a different email. So you guys share. I'm just gonna take the. I'm just gonna take a copy and paste. So the Voice of Greece at ert.gr. So here we go. I'm gonna copy that email. So right to that address, guys. Okay, Voice of Greece. This is the email that we should be sending, apparently. The Voice of Greece at ert.gr. So Primitive's going to order an SDR tomorrow. Cool. He's got another one here, ERT International at ert.gr. So cool. So some of them will work and will have information being sent to them. Let them know that they should stay on the air and why. It's very important to take that time, guys. Okay? Very, very important. So we need to work out. I'm gonna send my email. That's for sure. Just after the live show is ended. So what else do we have? Let me just go down here. So I'm gonna try to catch up there. Dr. Sisab, nice to have you here. Cool. About writing that. That's cool. We have ran a 100 feet wire north to south from the roof peak to Oak Tree. Little Skyward Sisby seems to have some kind of broadcast no matter where I turn to. So cool. So right Voice of Greece. Let's try to keep them on the air, guys. Okay? Because it's important to keep shortwave alive, and to do so, well, sometimes we have to actually do something about it. Another QSL card that I've got here from the Syrian Broadcasting and Television Service, right here. So that was the Syrian Broadcasting. There's the back of the card. So that was what? 12085 at 21 UTC on April 18th, 1993. The Syrian Arab Republic Broadcasting Service. So that I've heard a few times. One of those odd stations that you heard at the time. It was like Libya, Radio Jamahiriya, that I have at QSL. I couldn't hear them all the time, but some interesting stuff in there. Anything else before we start winding down? So this is Radio Canada International again. There we go. Let me check it out here. So this one has an interesting story. So this is Radio Kuwait. Radio Kuwait always had these funky QSLs that you have to open in like 3 or 4 different pages. And but what's interesting on this one, if you look at the time and the date, 1993, this is the QSL card I got after the when things came back to normal after the invasion of Kuwait. So Radio Kuwait came back on the air, and here it says Radio Kuwait QSL, and it is a QSL for, don't forget, our prisoners of war, 13620 at 22 UTC on 14th March 93. No, wavelength 23 meters, or 22 meters, sorry, 1840 UT to 1910. So that was their English language broadcast. And then the back, it's a long history of Radio Kuwait and stuff. And it has history here that Kuwait became free on 26 February 1991 with the help of God, the Almighty, and so on. So what's interesting of this QSL was the fact that I wanted to have after what happened to QSL, because I had 3 or 4 QSLs from Radio Kuwait from before the invasion. And basically, when they came back on the air, I wanted to have something to have it. So this is kind of a special QSL for that, wanting to have something after it all happened. What else here? We have Radio Netherlands, of course. Radio Netherlands. You guys remember Radio Netherlands? This one is from 1994. You know, I told you 94, that year, I was really intense in shortwave. Look at how many QSLs I got from 94. The other one here from October 94, Transworld Radio in Swaziland. So that also is something special. Swaziland for me was so weird. It was not weird, but was I remember the first time I came across the name of that country was because of shortwave. I had my Radio Shack, my Realistic DX100, and it had a little list, you know, like a lot of radios had, and even a few radios still today have an outdated list of stations on shortwave with their frequencies. And I remember I saw Swaziland. I was like, wow, that sounds so exotic. I don't know where it is, but I want to hear that. And well, I heard it one day, but that reminds me of that start of shortwave with these funky names of countries that you're like, I have no idea what Swaziland's all about. How about we listen to a small radio? Small little broadcast from here's Radio Netherlands. Happy Station Show from September the 26th, 1982. No, not that one. We played it already. I see it here. Radio Netherlands, 70 years, special broadcast of your shortwave service, 3985. That's different. Let's have a really, really Radio Netherlands-y moment here. Radio Netherlands interval signal. Radio Netherlands and on 15315. This one is, we played it before, but this one's interesting. Radio Netherlands on 25 megahertz in 1972. That was, that's interesting. 25 megahertz. So, in Dutch, 11 UTC 25620. Take care, KJ4CNY.
Luisteraars, goedenavond. Hier is Radio Nederland, wereldomroep in Hilversum, met een uitzending gericht op Zuidoost-Azië en het Pacificgebied. Dit programma wordt dagelijks uitgezonden van 11 uur.
And of course, we have another one here. If we look at trying to find. Let me just check it out here. I'm trying to find it and I'm not finding it. Well, I found another way, but not getting the. Here we go, Netherlands. And Netherlands, we have external Radio Netherlands in English from 1975 with an ID here. So here's 1975 recording for Radio Netherlands. I know a lot of us have fond memories of Radio Netherlands. It was a great station. They had so many little booklets of stations also. Like WX50, loved Radio Netherlands, but the changing interval signal wasn't my favorite. The clanging, yeah. It was not one of the best interval signals for me either.
This is Radio Nederland, a Dutch world broadcasting system in Hilversum, Holland. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everyone. We're broadcasting to Europe on 41.61 and 49.63 meters. That's on frequencies of 7,000.
It's interesting to see how
and 6,045
in the 70s and 80s stations were often using the meter bands
and
their frequencies.
25.37 meters, which is on frequencies of 15,130 and 11,825 kilohertz. We're still in the testing stage for the Far East, so your reception report will be greatly appreciated. Time to gather around for... The X-Jukebox.
The X-Jukebox. That goes back in time, eh? So, yeah, Swaziland now is the Kingdom of Eswatini. Absolutely. They've changed their name now. Mike WDX50 says Transworld Radio from Swaziland 8081. Madru DXer taking me back again to my youth, Radio Netherlands interval. CJ, I haven't had time to use the QRM eliminator yet because it requires power, and I've dismantled a lot of little things. So what I want to do is I'm going to do some videos and talk about it more in the coming weeks as I'm reorganizing it. It's going to be having its own little place and its own little antenna for the noise, so I can use it and check it better. So this is going to be the tests are coming up. So don't worry, tests are coming, and I will be playing with it and showing you guys what it does. 0-100. It's been ages since I heard any shortwave broadcasts on 1311 meters when they had better solar cycles. Yeah, 11 meters pretty much abandoned. Radio France did this year register a 11 meter frequency, which they never used. 13, I hear two stations. I hear Radio France on 21690, and I hear Radio Africa or something like that on 21525 from WRMI Okeechobee transmitter site. That one almost every day. John Beckham sent his email to Radio Greece to encourage them to stay on the air. Cool. Thank you very much. We have to all do our efforts if we want to keep it. As we have RGA Dakota, I have a copy of the Appy Station show for July 76 on cassettes. Man. Pretty crazy when you think of the past. So hey guys, we're going to call it quits for the night. Hope you enjoyed the show tonight. Went on really fast, 3 hours. Got a few little things to do, and I got to actually get up early tomorrow morning for a few things that's going to happen. So I want to say good night to everyone. I want to say thank you for being here as usual. It was a lot of fun to have you on board as usual. Hope you enjoyed the little special QSL night. We will be back on Saturday at 3 p.m., 20 hours UTC. And we're going to talk about radio as usual. Hope you enjoyed the show today and the little recordings that go with it. And don't forget, you can join the Shortwave Festival, $10 for 2 days. You're going to have a blast. It's really, really cheap. And have fun. Don't forget to write the Voice of Greece. Let them know that you want them to stay on the air. Give them reasons why. Be polite. And that's how we might keep Shortwave alive. Take care, everybody. Stay safe. Love you all. See you Saturday.